It's funny because I was listening to FireX talk on YouTube on the way down, and I just let it play sometimes in the car, and one of the guys was there. He was talking about like how successful fast teams are in their operations, and how much effort goes into getting that job done. And like it was like I watched 1,000 Maydays because he did this training, and he was like, this is what it was. Like if it was an obstacle, there's no obstacle, like 50% completed it. If there was one obstacle, 40% completed it. If there was two obstacles, 30%. Three obstacles, zero. And then they started going two-man teams, and then like got those three or four obstacles, and how much air consumption it has and everything, and it really, because I've been kind of reassigned at work to do that 100 hours of training now to like help the MTO get it figured out, and it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is good to check the box, but like this isn't what we actually need to be doing. Like we
No.
need to, and there's this Navy SEAL, Andy Stump, and he said like you need to train to your maximum and then just back off slightly to the point of no return and just back off, because he's like if you don't do that, you're not going to perform, and there's going to be a day that you have to perform and you have to be there. He's like, and he talked about SEAL training and the correlations that he drove up from being a Navy SEAL to firefighters. That like, combat is not at our choosing. Location, date, and time. Like the enemy is always moving. So if you look at the fire, it's always moving.
It's always moving. Yeah.
And then other parts of like that, SEAL teams are always gonna work with multiple units for the advantage. Well, like engine truck companies, rescue companies, we're all gonna be working for the advantage in that house, or in that building to try to stop the fire and attack it and everything else. And I was just like, I've really been kind of struggling with that because it's like this picture is here now. Hey, this is what you probably need to do, and I just know that between calls, running the ambulance, everything else, like it's very hard.
Yeah.
How do you take a guy on shift and put him to that 99% and then pull him back,
Right.
and then be like, hey, great job, I need you to run an ambulance call now.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
No.
But that's where we have to be. And I think there's like motivated guys to do it, but there's others that aren't as motivated, and it's trying to get them to understand where that balance is, and get them to do it. But I know our budgets don't have it in the overtime to bring us
No.
back to do
For
that training.
training, yeah.
And that was one of the things ISO came in and they wanted us to do 4 hours every quarter of company training, and we start kind of rolling back to that 100 hours, and they're like, well, we got to get them. Like, no, like we don't, like we need 100 hours because that's what the state says, but we need to make sure that it's realistic so that the guys are getting what they need out of it. I think I took Writ Under Fire at Firehouse Nashville, and being from New York, I was very uncomfortable with the whole thing because they were like, we're going to be using live fire victims. We're going to have firefighters in there, and they're going to be your victim, and you're going to be rescuing them. We're going to be calling Maydays all day. So if it says code red or whatever their thing was, that's going to be it. And I'm like, we can't be using live fire victims. And they're like, and I said to one of the guys from Chicago, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to trust you, but just know I'm freaked out about this because we had this incident. And he's like, no, we know, we know, like we get it every now and then a New York guy comes in. But they showed us the moves in the first half, and in the second half, they let these buildings on fire. And they were like, go in and do your stuff. And I remember in one of them, I said, well, can't you just take the strap of your SCBA off and wrap it around the guy and then lift him up with your legs? And they said, I want you to try that later on in the afternoon. I said, all right. So we're in this old block government housing, and they got 55-gallon drums of pallets on fire in every room. And I'm trying to do this, and the heat's just like my digital dexterity went away. And it was those gross motor skills and just simple communication of saying ready, ready, go, and moving these guys up and down stairs, down hallways, up out windows. I mean, all these, YouTube tricks that we had learned weren't going to work,
No.
but it was real because, like, I mean, and at the end of the day, it was this multi-scenario thing in this building, and it was on fire, and you had to do. Like our RIT team had to lift concrete off of a dummy, and it was down firefighter, a sandbag dummy. But like we had to use porta powers. And first off, I say porta powers in the firehouse, and guys are like, "What is that? Is it a new Jaws coming out?" And I'm like, "No." But like we had to use those because you can't use airbags inside of a burning building very well. And I'm just moving around because it's so hot, and I'm like, "Fuck, this is crazy." And as we're lifting it up, we're cribbing it underneath, and you're in smoke conditions, so you're trying to make sure nobody's got their hands anywhere as you're and. Finally, we get this thing out, and we left the cribbing there. We threw the porta powder on top of the thing so we didn't burn up the equipment. But the other guys had like acetylene torches. They were cutting, they're cutting bars. They had firefighters trapped behind bars, and they had a fire behind them. And they start hollering because they're actually getting hot. Now they got a water can back there that they can hit it down if it gets too bad, but it adds to this realism.
Yeah.
And at the start of the scenario, the guys from Chicago, the battalion chiefs and the captains of the rescue companies were there with us, and they were like, all right, we're going to review this, and they're going through a review with everybody of everything we've learned that day, and the whole point of it was they got you off guard, and like, all right, good, you got this, and you got this, you guys are doing great today, and all of a sudden this door burst open, and this guy comes out, and just like a pile of potatoes falls on the ground, and he's like, get his stuff off and find out what's going on, and there's these maydays coming out, and like they're going through this whole like scenario, and it happened so fast, I didn't put my gloves on because I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm listening to this guy, and we're gonna start the scenario. Scenario started, and he goes, take his stuff off, and I go and take his stuff off. I burn the tips of my fingers on his clasp, and I was quick to put my stuff on. Meanwhile, he's sitting there, put your fucking gloves on. And I said to the guy the next day on the trade floor, I said, what the hell did you do? He's like, I stood next to that barrel for 10 minutes. Roasting myself just so when I came out, you'd have that experience of having that, and that you will never take your gloves off again.
Yeah, and
that's crazy.
And you never think about it when you're going to organize.
Yeah,
holy shit.
And it was like, and I mean, my adrenaline was up. The straws started coming in on the on the tunnel vision, and it was fucked up because I made the mistake of wearing my white helmet out there. So I'd just been promoted, and I was like, well, maybe I can get this thing. So, like, they wanted me to be in charge. And I remember I was like, well, I'm, trying to learn. I said, no, you are learning. And that's what happens when you take the test. You get to learn faster. So you're going to be in charge of this. And I was, trying to coordinate all this stuff inside. It was just, and I came back and I said, we need to send everybody to this class next time. And, we can't because we can't afford it.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way to, how do you send half your department out to Nashville? Like,
Sorry. We did fundraising to send guys out there. Mm-hmm. I think a couple of them did the We're Under Fire. They came back with a couple of those techniques too, and it's crazy.
You were with my guys out there, weren't you?
I wasn't there. I had to cancel.
Yeah, you canceled, but we had a handful of guys that went out. The guys raised money to go because they saw the value in the training, and they went out. And Rob, it was funny. I bumped into him at Fairview. Stopped into one day and we were talking. He said, "Yeah, I think I was with one of you two of your guys," and he said, which I still remember vividly. He said, "Your guys are squared away," and I thought that was cool.
That's good. Yeah.
When a brother that I know just through mutual friends would have you, and we get talking, he's like, "I remember your guys because they're solid guys." And I took that back and I told each and every one of the guys that went out there, I said, "You know what, guys? When I can hear that from somewhere else that you guys are squared away, means speaks volumes. And that's cool."
Yeah,
really cool.
The training was phenomenal. I mean, we're not even getting money from Firehouse, so maybe you guys want to throw us an advertisement here. We did company tactics with the guys from Franklin Lakes, and I had one of his guys with me, and it was like we rotated. It was just live burns rotating through positions, except for the fact that the fires were really, really hot. And there was a guy named Pat from I think it was Roanoke, Virginia, and he was on the line, and they had really, right or wrong, they're using a lot of transitional attack down there. So he was excited to get in on these fires, and there was one where I came up and I put the thermometer up like this, and then I started bringing it down because I could see the flames coming across the ceiling, and we're doing that basement scenario, and I'm like, oh, he's in. I got to the stairs, and it was that you're either going down or you're not. And I slid down on my belly, and I ran into him, and he's like, "Isn't this great?" And I'm like, "Hey, I think this is fucking awesome, bro. You should probably just pencil the steel in a little bit."
Yeah, right.
Why? I'm like, it is, the fire is going across the room, through the hallway, punching the wall, into the next apartment. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So, and he's like, all right. And then it wasn't TNEC, or maybe it's TNEC a career job?
It's career department. Right
So
here.
there was a lieutenant from TNEC who was one of the instructors, and this guy barreled down the stairs, just said, "Are you guys all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're having a time of our lives." He's like, "Put the fire out!" And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "It's really hot up here, guys. Like the paint's burning off the walls." And I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well, Pat, you told him to put the fire out," and we put it out. And I was just, and I remember afterwards, I'm outside. I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna take a break." And he's like, "We're all taking a break. Like we all took a beating there."
That's awesome. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it
what
is.
a great opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned you don't ever tell anybody from Anne Arundel County that they're being a wuss about stoking the fires.
That's right. There you go. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. But anyway, I mean, I know we can go on and on, but we'll probably wrap this up. But anyway, Sebi, for everybody watching and listening, if you're still here with us, Sebi is our AV guy, man. He takes care of everything for us, and without him, we'd have nothing. So we like to get him out in front of the camera every once in a while. So on. So thank you for coming out, and thank you for all your hard work.
Anytime.
And Chief, thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We're going to have you back. We'll do some roundtable stuff, and maybe we
Sure.
can get up by your department one day and
Yeah,
do some
absolutely.
field stuff. We'd love to do that too.
We always have coffee on.
Cool. I love this. That's perfect. Guys, thank you. Thank you for listening. Have a good
Everybody,
night.
thanks. Be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, it's Robert with National Fire Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Catch up with us on social media. We got
SoundCloud, National Fire Radio, YouTube, National Fire Radio, Instagram, National Fire Radio, and
not least,
Facebook, National Fire Radio. Guys, check us out. Take care. Be safe.